tremendous. It's huge. It's unbelievable. And nowhere near enough is being done.
Apparently, you folks have made a career out of spending taxpayer money.
It's really about arrogance and abuse of power.
It's not your money. It's the taxpayers' money.
If they think it's an epidemic, then surely you do too.
We're playing with the low-hanging fruit.
Washington, D.C. is what we call a self-licking ice cream cone.
We're now trying to change the culture of a government.
Continuing to perpetuate its own problems so it can continue to exist.
Away from a culture of spendthrift toward a culture of thrift.
62% of Americans view the federal government unfavorably. Could this be why?
$44 for breakfast? I'm a big man. I can't spend $44 for breakfast. Somebody had to say that. Are you kidding me?
The rest of America would never conceive of a $7 Monte Cristo mini sandwich. And neither would you if you were spending your own money.
The $822,000 spent in Las Vegas by the GSA should be a farewell party.
The General Services Administration throwing a lavish conference with an $823,000 price tag, with sushi dinner, clowns, mind readers, and the workers, they're just laughing at you as they were taking this money right out of your pocket.
Ain't no place better than GSA.
And the man who planned this over-the-top conference, Jeff Neely, was caught relaxing as if on a 5-star vacation on so-called scouting trips, all on your dime. When Congress tried to ask him about all the absurd spending, Neely clammed up, pleading the Fifth.
I respectfully decline to answer based upon my Fifth Amendment constitutional privilege.
After this all got out, GSA Administrator Martha Johnson resigned in disgrace. 2 top aides were fired, and at least 10 others were placed on administrative leave. GSA's own Inspector General called the conference excessive and wasteful, and one huge question remains. Why did it take 11 months for that IG report to be published? But if you think the GSA is alone in their wasteful spending of your money, you are dead wrong. This culture of waste, fraud, and at times crime is pandemic. It's at ICE, the SEC, NOAA, and more. Even after Capitol Hill grillings and appalling details on how your money was spent. What's the White House response? A new $500,000 conference cap. The OMB even agrees we should be careful stewards of taxpayer funds. And that's the answer? Tonight we're digging deeper to uncover how things got so out of control. Welcome to our On the Record special, Government Gone Wild. Over the hour you'll hear from Senator Scott Brown. He says that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the group that wanted to hire a magician for an event, is doing many more frivolous things than that. He says it's just the tip of the iceberg of that group's spending spree.
There's a complete lack of accountability.
Plus, you'll hear from Senator Tom Coburn, former GSA Administrator Loretta Doan, Congressman John Mica, and you'll learn about the many other examples of waste, fraud, scams, and schemes that will leave you fuming. They're draining your wallet and your faith in government.
We spoke with former Governor Sarah Palin, who was steamed about the waste.
What are we getting for the tax dollars that are being taken from our incomes being sent to the federal government today? We're getting higher unemployment numbers than when Barack Obama first took over. We're getting less energy secure than when Barack Obama took over. There are so many problems in the federal government, and it does, this leadership starting at the top, if the president isn't held accountable to make sure he's appointing the right people in these positions to help run our government, then we're in a world of hurt.
We spoke with the chair of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, Darrell Issa, about the GSA scandal. I guess, my thought is, and I'm pretty revved up about this because I think it's appalling when I think of what $820,000, $840,000 could do for so many important projects in the government, or so many needs, whether it's veterans learning to work with amputated arms or whatever it is. And I see this, so I'm pretty revved up about it. But I don't know, 11 months, you see $800 and some thousand being spent on a lavish party, and it takes you 11 months to figure out that there's a problem. I'd see that and I'd think, this. What is someone drinking? How can this happen? It wouldn't take me 11 months. I hope it wouldn't even take me 11 minutes.
Well, that's exactly right. You would have thought that the administrator would have been doing everything to correct this. So by the time that final report came out 11 months later, she would be able to say, yes, we understand, but we fixed it. You know, this is one of the areas, Greta, that's so irritating is this administration wants to say they took quick action, but in fact, they've known about it for 11 months and took no action until the press was about to get wind of it.
All right, well, before that, though, in 2008, with a Democratic Congress who should have been providing oversight and a Republican White House, it was $655,000 on a lavish party. 2 years earlier, it was $323,000. I realize that it's much less money as the years go back, but what in the world are we spending even a dime on lavish parties for government, for civil servant people who work for the government when we've got high unemployment, people don't have jobs, don't have job security? What in the world are we spending even a dime on this stuff?
Well, Greta, you're exactly right on one of the most important things. There was a trend, there was a direction, there was a cultural shift that was making this more and more, if you will, easy to do. So by the time it came to the $800,000 party, the fact is the damage had been going on for a period of time unchecked. And you make the most important point, which is Congress has to be proactive. We have to see these trends coming. We have to have more direct relations with the IGs. And with all the other parts of government. In other words, we need the transparency so we can be part of the solution, whether an administration is willing to take action or not.
How do we get that, though? How do the American people get that? You know, we watch Congress fight, you know, over the budget, and one side wants taxes raised, and another side doesn't want taxes raised, and we look at all the waste and fraud, and we think to ourselves as taxpayers, maybe you ought to start doing your oversight and stop wasting stuff. Maybe we don't need as much money as you need. You know, it's American people are just sitting there watching. You guys, you all, and I appreciate you coming here, but, you know, a lot of it, you know, is really, you know, the problem is, you know, you members of Congress and the White House are part of the problem, a big part of it.
Well, you know, failure to do your job is certainly something that Congress should be held accountable for, because we have failed to do our job of keeping after this ever-growing bureaucracy, which is our responsibility. We shouldn't fund and then forget. But Senator Coburn and myself have both been working on modernization, what we call in the House the Data Act, getting the kind of reporting that would not only allow us to look better into government, but allow the public to see it. These kinds of expenses should be transparent to the public. Everyone in America should be able to know what happened in Las Vegas, how many people were there, and how much money was spent. You have a right to know. We have a need to know. Can we get both of those in a way in which, essentially like a Google search, you'd be able to find out? That's what the Data Act tries to do. That's what Senator Coburn over in the Senate has been working on for years. We think the time has come to order that, to make the administration more transparent, not because of this president, but because of every president.
I shudder to think how many other parts of the government are having these parties. But the other thing, I can't possibly escape the irony. I've quoted Senator Tom Coburn many times about the fact that he commissioned a study about waste and fraud in the government, and it's a study about a foot tall on my desk, and it's been there for months. And who did he commission to do the waste and fraud? The ones that are out partying in Vegas. I mean, it's just, you know, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, it's just so appalling. And I know the question every American has is, how many other agencies of the government are having parties? Do you have any other idea about this?
Well, I'll give you a good example. Back in when we were last in the majority, back in 2005 and 6, as a subcommittee chairman, I was working on Mineral Management Service, the famous MMS, and the parties they were having, paid for by the oil and companies that did business with the government in violation of all the laws, and they, in fact, told us that they thought it was necessary. They needed to have this close working relationship with those they oversaw. Fast forward 4 years, the Gulf is filled with oil, and once again, you have the too close a relationship between the regulators and the regulated. So this isn't the only time there's been lavish parties. It isn't the only time that government has sort of thought it was their right and entitlement. The question is, when will Congress start putting its assets into making sure that that we have transparency? And that's going to be, if you will, my signature of my chairmanship is, can I get this and the next administration to change their ways and really become transparent, not just give it lip service, but provide the real online capability, not just for my committee, but for groups on the left and right who want to know about waste in government. The only way they're going to get that access is if we change how you access government records, including things like this kind of spending.
Now you get to go inside the GSA. And the GSA was publicly flogged during the congressional hearings with yellings and scoldings, but Jeff Neely remaining stunningly silent. The man responsible for that lavish Vegas conference pleading the fifth. GSA Inspector General Brian Miller and former GSA Administrator Martha Johnson also testified that day. We spoke with Loretta Doan, the former administrator of the GSA during the Bush administration, and asked her what she thought of the first day of the hearings.
It was appalling. It was absolutely shocking, but it was shocking maybe for different reasons to me than maybe what other Americans saw. And I saw the question of competence, because you saw the leaders of GSA, the administrator, the chief of staff, all saying they really didn't know what was going on. They really didn't think it was their responsibility to figure out what was going on. And even though after they were told it was okay to award bonuses to folks that they knew had violated the public trust.
All right, explain something to me. If I'm a regional director and I'm going to hold a conference, do I submit a budget in advance or do I submit a bill after the fact?
Well, I have to tell you, you should be submitting budgets and get approvals in advance. However, it's very clear after today's hearing that the current Obama administration appointees at GSA have radically departed from the procedures that were put in place, at least during my time during the Bush administration.
I was surprised at the former Martha Johnson. She said, testified, I'm paraphrasing it, that she, for the rest of her life, she's always going to regret that she lost this appointment or something to that effect. And I thought to myself, that's the least of your regrets. I mean, just think of what this amount of money, this culture of theft from the American people, the taxpayers. Think of what that money could have done to people in this country who, whether it's a school or firefighters. We talk all the time about, about firefighters and teachers being cut. Well, we wouldn't have to if we weren't throwing these lavish parties.
It's the incredible waste of the taxpayers' dollars, and there seemed to be no realization across the entire group of fellows that were being interviewed by the congressman about the waste that they had caused. But what was more incredible to me with Martha Johnson was that she didn't seem to understand that she had completely delegated away all of her responsibilities, her statutory responsibilities for financial management, sound financial management, for personnel management, and also her responsibility to meet with the IG. She did not even meet with her inspector general.
Well, she's got to have some, as the head of the organization, you can't expect to do every task.
No,
you've got to expect
but you do have responsibility and accountability for how it's performed.
All right. Tell me, this Mr. Neely, when he took the Fifth Amendment, any thought about him?
What I saw was that you saw a lot of the Democrat congressmen looking for, they needed to circle the wagons. They needed to pin this on someone. And by Jeff Neely, who's a career SES, Senior Executive Service employee, saying and taking the Fifth, that was the person. They were going to pin it all on them and sort of cordon off the White House from any blame. I don't think that they succeeded, because I think Congressman Issa did get to the point that the White House knew, and knew for 11 months, and took no action.
How do you get rid of a government employee?
You have to be tough. What you have to do is you have to pick up the phone, you call John Berry at OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, and you say, I have got an employee who is way out of control. He's a career employee, so it's going to be tough, but he has violated the public trust, he has stolen taxpayer dollars, and he has abused, really, the good reputation of the agency. I've documented it, and I need you to take action on this, and I need it to be immediately.
All right, well, it
is very hard, and you will be blamed, but it's the right thing to do.
All right, well, he's on leave, but he's getting paid. How do you stop someone from getting paid? Is that possible, or you have to wait? Sort of, is he sort of presumed innocent? Which, I think people should be presumed innocent. But this could go on forever that he's on the payroll. He can go out and get another job, I guess.
Although it took the IG 11 months to actually get the report, and the report seems to be final. It's conclusive. There was abuses, and his name is on it. They should be on leave without pay. The government does have the option to make someone go on leave without pay. They have simply.
Who makes that option?
The administrator could do it.
Which, so at GSA?
At GSA, she'd have to justify it to the Office of Personnel Management, I believe.
What took the Inspector General so long?
Well, that is an excellent question, because one would like to think that if you were proactive on these things and alerted folks in advance, you could actually stop the abuse from happening, stop the waste of taxpayer money. Yes, they've sent out letters to recover funds, but that's only a few $1,000s when we're talking about almost $1 million that was wasted on one event. And by the way, what's happened in the subsequent 11 months?
I'd like to take a look at the Inspector General, and I guess we're lucky the Inspector General isn't a firefighter, because the place would have burned down with the family inside by now, with the way that the speed at which this
Sergeant.
Well, I do think we have to be concerned because he did say at one point very quietly, but he did say that he was looking into other mismanagement of funds. He was looking into bribes. He was looking into potential kickbacks. And the problem is, if it took him 11 months on a conference that was clearly a no-brainer, don't do it, it was wrong, I worry about how long it'll take him to uncover the rest.
Straight ahead, GSA is at it.